So, today I want to talk to you about um, I guess the project itself, project Semicolon. I want to talk to you about the difficulties that we face on a daily basis. Not only is it difficult to have a mental illness or a disorder, um, but it's also extremely difficult to not be accepted, to not, you're constantly judged for your thoughts and for your feelings. You're constantly being called or labeled as crazy or unstable, unreliable, undependable. You're made to feel unworthy, ashamed, broken, completely broken, as if you're out of order, as if you don't belong, as if there is not a place for you. Guilty because you feel a certain way, or because you think a certain way, or simply because you've tried to harm yourself. Self-harm is very common, just as suicide is. Cutters exist. That's probably one of the most common forms of self-harm, although there are many others. And I think the most difficult thing to do is that, or to have to go through, is the fact that you can't relate to anyone and you can't tell everyone what you're going through and what you're living, because if you dare share your feelings or your thoughts, what truly is inside of you, you will be judged and you will be labeled and you will be made fun of, and you will no longer be a part of a group. You will no longer be considered normal, when in actuality, what is normal? There are so many labels out there. And so I just want to let you know that normal, as people may want to call it, isn't necessarily the same thing for everyone. And so having a mental illness or a disorder of any sort does not make you less, does not mean that you should be ashamed, or that you are worthless, or that there is something wrong with you, because a diagnosis is simply that, a diagnosis. You are not your diagnosis. Yes, it is part of who you are, but it is not who you are. It does not define you. It does not give value to you or take away value from you or the person that you are. It's completely separate. So don't be ashamed. Don't feel worthless. Don't feel like you are less than anybody else or that you are not enough simply because you are going through what some people may label as not normal. The labels that are put upon us are just so, they're incorrect, and they're harsh, they're unfair, because having an illness is not your fault. You didn't choose that illness. You didn't decide that you wanted to be or experience this. And so today I say to you, instead of being judgmental, instead of pushing people to the side, instead of talking bad about them behind their back or even to their face, I ask you today to join me in Project Semicolon, to love, to give advice, to listen, to be a part of the solution and not of the problem. You don't know what the other person or that person is feeling or going through or thinking, what is running through their mind, or what might be the very last straw that indicates to them that they should end their life. Instead, I say to you, listen, love, respect, help. Educate yourself and become aware. And stop the ignorance and stop the stigma on mental health, on mental illnesses, such as depression, anxiety disorder, PTSD, bipolar disorder, borderline personality, split personality, schizophrenia, and so many others that I haven't mentioned. Please be someone that cares instead of someone that brings another person down, because we don't need to feel ashamed. We don't need to feel worthless. We don't need to feel less simply because of a diagnosis. It hurts for people to label us. And so I ask you today, please join me in Project Semicolon to bring awareness and to educate others about what mental health, mental illness, and suicide prevention is all about. We can do this one step at a time, but it takes each and every single one of us to come together and become a part of the solution and no longer part of the problem. Stop labeling and stop making people feel unworthy or less. Love them. Love them. Because ultimately, that's all that everyone is looking for. Acceptance and love. Blessings to you and thanks once again for listening.